This is a poem called Call and Answer. Tell me why it is we don't lift our voices these days and cry over what is happening. Have you noticed that the plans are made for Iraq and the ice cap is melting? I say to myself, go on, cry. What's the sense of being an adult and having no voice? Cry out. See who will answer. This is Call and Answer. We will have to call especially loud to reach our angels who are hard of hearing. They are hiding in the jugs of silence filled during our wars. Have we agreed to so many wars that we can't escape from silence? If we don't lift our voices, we allow others who are ourselves to rob the house. How come we've listened to the great criers, Neruda, Akhmatova, Thoreau, Frederick Douglass, and now we're silent as sparrows in the little bushes? Some masters say our life only lasts 7 days. Where are we in the week? Is it Thursday yet? Hurry, cry now. Soon Sunday night will come.
What we need for peace is to ask who arranges for the wars. What we need to do is not look at the soldiers, but ask who's behind the soldiers, who sends the soldiers out very far away to kill others and to be killed. It must be a gentleman. Perhaps it's gentlemen and gentlewomen together, very well bred, very well educated, beautifully dressed, whose manners are not so shrill as the manners of us peace workers, whose manners are kinder and more cordial, who have an immunity to the pain of the poor and the pain of other people being killed. These people, it must be gentlemen and not gentlewomen, because gentlewomen, we know for a fact, do not look into the daytime activities of their husbands. They have, as Mrs. Bush has told us, 46 years of happy marriage because they don't ask about what their husband does during the daytime. So let's say it's gentlemen who send us off to our wars. Let's say that these lucky rich, these wonderful, well-educated people are lucky predators. Not unlucky predators, not like batters and beaters who get psychological help, but people too lucky to ask for psychological help or ever get it. We need to get them psychological help so they'll stop taking us to all their wars. We need somehow to have a psychology, especially of the very rich, and we need to ask them to go make use of that and not look down on psychology as something you bring in for your employees in the corporation or something that belongs to losers. It needs to be something that happens to winners. Someone needs to teach them to say, there's some small part of me that I'm not used to looking at, which feels pain when I order up soldiers to go kill other people. I thought I didn't feel any pain, but now that I've become psychologically consciousness raised, I too feel pain. Apparently there is something about peace I need to learn and that I need to feel. And so I'm asking the psychological community of the United States to look at the very rich and to leave their studios where the people that need help and know it, who identify themselves as needing help, come, and instead go to the very rich and say, you need help, and we will give it. And make it stylish and make it a passion for the rest of us to point to them and say, they need help, and they are getting it. Just as the women's movement did 30 years ago when it stopped people sneering and jeering at them by making fun of people who were in such psychological unconsciousness that they jeered at women. And so I ask for the psychological community to leave their offices and leave their studios and come out and publish, to be willing to do things without documentation, to be willing not to be scientists anymore, to leave the medical model, which is so dear to some thousands of them, and to ask all of us, but especially to ask the rich, the lucky, the gentle, especially those with the great educations, to ask them, how long have you been immune to what happens to the poor when all the money goes for weapons? How did you get to be immune? Were you always immune, or was there some trauma in your background? I don't think there was any trauma in your background. We need to get them to ask those questions. And then the rich, too, can have that same strange joy that the rest of us have when we say, I have discovered a part of myself in which there's hope where I thought there was no hope, and where I don't need pride and wealth so much as I need to join all these others, the invisible others. If they join the invisible others, there are no wars, since wars are against others whom we can't see or whom they don't see.
I get so down sometimes. Is this depression, or is it just another recession? Keep having these Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian nightmares. This dread. We've got neutron bombs hanging over our heads. This dread. I know it isn't all in my head or underneath my clothes. This dread. Is this depression, or is it just another recession? Dread in the morning, dread in the night, dread in the darkness, dread in the light. The Industrial Revolution is over. No prisoners will be taken. If you haven't got a function, dysfunction. This dread. Dread in the Middle East. Dread in North Africa. Dread in South Africa. Dread in Southeast Asia. Dread in Central America. London Bridge is falling down. London Bridge is falling down. Here comes the dread through London town. This dread. Dread in the living room, dread in the bathroom, dread in the kitchen now, dread in the bedroom. Nuclear family has exploded. The nuclear family is exposed to the dread. This dread. I meet a woman walking over on 3rd Avenue by Fair Oaks Park. It's around 10 o'clock, dark, and she is so frightened, it frightens me. Should I stop, run away, say I'm harmless, though big, black, full of the same fantasies that fuel the fire, the fear, the tear? She jogs away. I slow down, want to crawl under the ground. A blessing to get back to my cell, away from this dread. Is this depression, or is it just another recession?
Ogitchada. I was born in war. WW2. Heard the old men tell stories of getting gassed in the trenches. WW1. Saw my uncles come back from Guadalcanal, North Africa, in the Battle of the Bulge. Memorized the war stories my cousins told of Korea. Felt the fear in their voices. Finally, it was my turn. My brothers, too. Joined the Marines in time for the Cuban Missile Crisis. Heard the crack of rifle fire in the rice paddies south of Da Nang. Saw my friends die there, then tasted the bitterness of the only war America ever lost. My son is now a warrior. Will I listen to his stories or cry into his open grave?
All of these eyes, you all see eyes looking for each other right in this little stretch. I've noticed that. And this is how I met a guy from my outfit. Eyes.
Welcome home.
Yeah, you too.
Hey, and God bless you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're alive.
Yeah, we made it.
This poem is in memory of my brother Rod. He served in the United States Army. We called him Wabigan. Did you ever hear a sound, smell something, taste something that brought you back to Vietnam instantly? Did you ever wonder when it would end? It ended for my brother. He died in the war, but didn't fall down for 15 tortured years. His flashbacks are over. Another casualty whose name will never be on the wall. Some can only find peace in death. The sound of his family crying hurt. The smell of the flowers didn't comfort us. The bitter taste in my mouth still sours me. How about a memorial for those who made it through the war, but still died before their time?
It was the Vietnam War which thrust McCarthy onto the main stage of American politics. Nobody would run against the war in the 1968 presidential primary, so Senator McCarthy felt called. Daughter Mary was instrumental in convincing him to run by arguing, the calling of a Christian is not to judge the world, but to save it.
You play with my world like it's your little toy. You put a gun in my hand.
The war must end because it is not morally justifiable.
The cool voice of reason in the disturbing tumult of those times, he stood to lead a constituency of conscience. It turned into a crusade.
And it fits into our whole campaign thrust, namely of protecting people's rights and beyond that of setting them free. We'll continue that. We'll go on in great things and also in small things to demonstrate our continued belief that there is a certain power in human reason, which is really the only instrument we have with which we can give some direction to life and history.
By the time the campaign reached the convention in Chicago, although he wasn't going to win the nomination, they had succeeded in making resistance to the war respectable, as well as right. Still, it was a war at home.
I learned really how strong the establishment is. Not just the political establishment, but the business establishment. But it's still there, the press and the business community and the political institutions are all geared to the establishment. And when they're really tested, they're all militarists. I'll give you two Vietnam poems. They're kind of morbid stuff. But it was a kind of a Sam Donaldson question. They always like to say, what would you do right this minute if you were president of the United States? Well, you don't know what you do. You know, you say, well, go to sleep or get up or do something. And I felt rather good. I said, well, and I didn't know this was a poem until Robert Lowell said I'd spoken a poem. So I've fixed it up a little bit since, as you know, we cheat a little bit. But I said, well, I would take our corrugated steel out of the land of thatched huts. And I'd take our tanks and bulldozers out of the land of the water buffalo. And I'd take our flamethrowers and napalm out of a land that scarcely knows the use of matches, and take our helicopters out of a land of colored birds and butterflies, and give you back your small villages and farms, your small and willing women, and trust you to your God, some blind and some many-handed, which I thought was a fair proposition. You know? And the other is a My conversation. And I don't know, you followed Me, but you know the story. In the New York Times, in the middle of March in '68, had a story about how 2 companies of American soldiers had surrounded this group of Viet Cong soldiers, 128, and held them there while they were killed by helicopter fire, which is a complete fabrication of the military. And this is called My Conversation. It said, "How old are you, small Vietnamese boy?" 6 figures, 6 years. "Why did you carry water to the soldier now dead?" "Your father." "Your father was enemy of the free world." "Who told you to carry water to your father now dead?" Your mother is also enemy of the free world." "You go into the ditch with your mother." An American politician has said it's better to kill you in the elephant grass of Vietnam than in the ryegrass of the USA. It is better to die where you know the names of the trees and the birds and the grass than in a strange country. You will be number 128 in the body count for today. The high body count will make the leader of the free world very pleased. Well,
Is poetry reaching the audience that ought to be reached?
Oh, well, probably. Nobody knows what audience it ought to reach anymore. Once upon a time, the audience for poetry was the whole community, tribe, or clan, or whatever it was. All these things have disappeared now. So poetry reaches people who can hear. And as Christ said, or somebody like that, he who has ears, let him hear. And so maybe it's reaching just the ones that it ought to reach. I don't know. But the Wobblies used to say, among other things, agitate the agitators, educate the agitators. It's like all these shrieks and cries that go up, you know. And eventually, if there are enough of them, other people will start hearing them, I think. And poetry is a part of that. It's a way of, it's a sophisticated scream, something like that. Behold, friends, once more the revolution has performed its famous disappearing act. And never before has one been preceded by so many prophets, by so many holy books, all in translation, by so many young men with long hair, so many poets with short breath.
We don't want to fight anymore, but if we have to fight again, it'll be to take these steps.
I should really know how to start a fire. I was an Eagle Scout when I was a kid.
And the elephant bells, ooh-la, and incense, and the flowers. The flowers, alas, which never found the barrel of the gun that power grows out of.
Inside that box was all that was left of my son. A burned, broken body. What did he die for?
And now the president reborn out of the mystical body of the one and universal voting machine takes off his mask, a thick and heavy darkness like rust is collecting in the amplified guitars.
1, 0. These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other, or we must die.
The president will make the airplane fly. He will make the Grateful Dead truly grateful. The president is casting the other I Ching. A hard rain is falling. The roads are icing up. But in every drop of the rain, the sailors of the Potemkin wake. In every society that's existed and exists, creates alienated people, because there hasn't been a system yet that's completely tolerable to the human spirit.
To the fourth grader wearing hippie tie-dye, the importance of your colors are the reminders of all the songs I heard, whose powerful gathering was a chorus of angels stopping young soldiers like me from going to war.
Poema de amor internacional.
अंतर्राष्ट्रीय प्रेम कविता.
Международная поэма любви.
عالمي حب شعر.
Poème d'amour international.
International kärleksdikt.
International love poem. Shahiri la mapenzi kwa mataifa.
Koksayaika.
Haga el amor, no la guerra. Por favor.
प्यार कीजिए, लड़ाई नहीं.
Занимайтесь любовью, а не войной, пожалуйста.
اصنعوا حب لا حرب لو سمحتم.
Faites l'amour, pas la guerre. Je vous en prie.
Var snäll, älska, inte kriga.
Make love, not war. Please.
Usifanye vita, fanya mapenzi. Tafadhali.
Doka senso yorimo ai o.
Fin.
Sama.
Koniec.
النهاية.
Fin.
Slutet.
The end.
Mwisho.
Owari.
O God of mercy, save us from harsh words, save us from ourselves, save us from those who would harm us, save us from ourselves, save us from threats of rage and revenge, save us from ourselves, save us from hopelessness and humiliation, save us from ourselves. O God of mercy, deliver the children of the world into rooms of safekeeping, where each child's name is spoken, where those who love them hold and nourish them, where there is no suffering, where the doors are locked to the malevolent ones. O God of mercy, save us from the enemy, save us from ourselves, and when we are the enemy, save us from ourselves. Have mercy on us, forgive us, save us from ourselves.
This is Media Dada's manifesto. My mother went to Target the other day, and when she came home, she told my 4-year-old daughter where she'd been. Well, you can't go there anymore, said Sonia. My mother asked, why not? Because they bombed all the targets. They bombed all the targets. I am more and more convinced that war begets war. War begets war. When we build armaments and fight other nations, we build hostilities. We negate what we pretend to teach our children. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill. Think of it. This war must be sanitized. If you and I knew the truth, we might want to stop. I do want it to stop. Stop bombing the targets, whatever they may be. Stop bombing the targets, whatever they may be.